Today's conversation is all about fragility or being fragile. And I believe just paying attention and seeing the differences in how people operate and how they function, I've come to this agreement or this understanding, and I want to present it to you all today. There is a difference between being sensitive and being emotional. Sensitivity is not emotional reactivity. And I feel that a lot of the times that is something that is often clumped together, right? So if you're somebody who's very emotional, you often get called sensitive, like, oh, you're just sensitive. And while being sensitive can make you more emotional, it is not always a one-to-one correlation. In other words, just because you're sensitive doesn't make you emotional. Sensitivity is your ability to feel. Sensitivity is just your ability to feel. And so the idea is to increase your sensitivity while decreasing your emotional reactivity. And what do I mean by that? The goal in the conquer proof concept in any of my teachings, any of my lessons, and anything that I'm telling you about is really tapping into self and being able to hone in on those abilities that you are born with. There are talents, and then there is just you, right? There's talents, and then there's, like, I won't say you, but in us. And we all have the ability to be very sensitive. It's when we do things that make us more dense, or they put, crap around our receptors, that makes us less sensitive, right? So the foods that you eat make you more dense. They clog up your pores. They put fat or whatever, anything extra around your nerves. And now that lowers your sensitivity. In other words, you're not as in tune with your environment as you could be. And this lack of attunement causes you to have a delay in your movements, in the way that you operate, and can cause confusion and burnout and all sorts of ugly and nasty things, right? That's what they call street smarts, right? You're street smart because you know things, but you also sense them. You feel them. That's what sensing is. It's feeling, right? You might have 5 senses, but you only have one feeling, and all these senses just allow you to feel on a deeper level, right? So that's sensitivity, right? You want a highly sensitive alarm. If you have a smoke detector, you want that thing to be very sensitive, right? So if anything is off key, immediately. See, whereas emotional reactivity is not always based on sensitivity. It's based on your attachment to meanings that you give about situations. It's attachment. It's a meanings that you attach to given situations. That's what emotional reactivity is, right? So somebody yells at you. Some people might get their feelings hurt. They have emotional response, which is sadness, because they have attached a meaning to that experience. In other words, they might think that that person is yelling at them, or they're attacking them, or they are telling them that they are doing something wrong. That's emotions. And you can control your emotions when you learn to detach from meanings. We give things meanings, and meanings are good because they allow us to communicate, and it allows us to bridge gaps between certain things like concepts and things of that nature. But they can be a detriment when all we do is attach meaning, and we don't realize that just because we give it a meaning doesn't mean that is the meaning. Okay? So we have to draw that line. We have to draw that comparison so that you understand that sensitivity is not the same thing as emotional. You can be highly sensitive, not very emotional. In other words, you are able to sense the changes in the environment, the subtle vibrations in the environment, but you're not reacting to it. You may respond to it, and reacting and responding are two different things, right? Reacting is basically tick for tack, whereas responding is more of it's a decision-making skill. Responding is more learning how to make a decision, giving new data. Reaction is making a knee-jerk reaction, or I can't use the word in the definition, but it's making a knee-jerk decision instead of a conscious decision. So I would say that's the differentiation between responding and reacting, what your level of consciousness in making your next decision, right? So when you're sensitive, you're highly conscious of the decisions that you're going to make. And whereas when you become very emotional, you become very reactive. In other words, you become very unconscious of the actions that you're going to take from then on out, then on there. When you become emotional, you become basically tunnel visioned into your idea of what is and is not truth and the reality that you are experiencing. And again, you're not right or wrong, but you become limited, and therefore that invites room for miscommunication and mishaps. So the idea is to become very sensitive, but become not as emotional. In other words, we have to detach ourselves from the meanings that we give things. In other words, we allow things to unfold, and we just stay aware as things are unfolding. So now we have the ability to become unbiased, or as unbiased as possible, given your own development and your own journey within self, to make the best decision moving forward. And I want to draw that distinction because we have to become sensitive. There has to be something that is encouraged and not attacked or ridiculed, or you're made fun of for being sensitive. And even if you're emotional, there has to be something that's not attacked. Because the only difference between the way we move from this competitive world to a collaborative world is the way that we see things. And I say see with the letter C, not with the SEE, but with the C, which is compassion. When you have compassion for people, it's a lot it's a lot easier, and it's a lot more fluid for you to start detaching yourself from the meaning, and you start seeking middle grounds. You start seeking to understand the other. And when you understand the other, that is the beginning of compassion. When you understand the other, you're able to now operate under the premise of win-win situations, because you see a way that both of you all can benefit, not one or the other. That is competition. When you feel like there is no middle ground, when you feel like there is no connection. Right? And it goes deeper than when competition comes in, because sometimes it's not just that there is no connection, it's scarcity. Competition really drives in when there's scarcity and there's no connection, because then it's like, look, you got it and I need it, or I got it and you need it, or there's that one thing and one of us got to take it. When we move into the collaborative mindset, we enter it with compassion. We seek to understand the other, and we seek to make win-win agreements. Win-win agreements. You see, when we go win-win, there is no losing. There is just winning, right? You may not win as much as you'd like, but you still win. And that's the subtle difference, right? Some people think, well, if I don't get everything, I'm losing. No. If you get one thing that you need, you're winning. That's the goal, everybody to win. Not for you to win everything, for everybody to win. That is the ideal. That is how we go into harmony. And the first way we're going to do that is by increasing our sensitivity to recognize when there's a subtle change, so that we can be more observant. We can bring more awareness to the situation. And two, you become emotional, but not emotionally reactive. Having a very deep and wide range of emotions is very important, so that you can become more empathetic. You can have more compassion with others. You can start understanding and overstanding other people. When you don't have a very wide or very diverse range of emotions, it's very hard for you to connect with somebody else. So that's the idea. We're this idea of fragility. You're fragile when you keep attaching your identity with meanings and then your correctness of a meaning. Most people say, well, you're fragile. People are fragile, and it's because they've tied their identity to their ability to be correct about a situation. And it's not their ability to be correct about a situation, but their ability to be correct about their opinion of a situation. If you want to become less fragile, you must realize, one, stop attaching yourself to things. Like, stop attaching yourself to meanings. Stop attaching yourself to your opinions, because your opinions can change. Have your identity be you, your essence, your values, what you stand for, not what you always do per se, because your identity and your behavior are two different things. Well, to a degree, they're one and the same, but the real you, because identity is just an attachment to behavior, because your identity can change because your behavior can change. So if you want to become less fragile, one, detach yourself from this sense of identity. I know it's hard, and I'm not telling you like lose yourself completely, but realize that identity is fluid. You can move, you can change, you can modify, you can adjust, and you're not always correct. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth. So wrapping everything up, if you stop attaching yourself to things, you allow yourself to become less reactive, and in turn, you become less fragile. And then a step up from that is to become more sensitive and less emotionally reactive. And the reason that this is so important so that we can move into a more collaborative society, a more compassionate society, is so we can stop all this fighting, because ultimately fighting hurts everybody. You may win the fight, but now you're going to be living your life with a little bit of anxiousness, because who did you hurt and who do they know? You know, I hope you get what I'm saying there. So in order for us to ease this anxiety and ease this fight that we have for survival, let's instead work together for a common good or a common uniting factor. How can we both win? How can we both win? And when we operate on that level, the world becomes a better place. As always, if you enjoyed this talk, if you'd like to dive deeper into it, if you'd like to, get a little more clarity for your life, see where you can increase your sensitivity or where you can reduce your emotional reactivity, build a vision, get a strategy together so that you can move into the best version of yourself, I want you to visit cpc.iallg.com. That will be in the bio. Let's have a conversation. This is Brother 𝐁𝐫𝐶 signing out. Peace.